usually the way it goes is that you need a good combination of having a team that's willing, for example, in deep tech, to spin out a company, often from the universities. So that's super important. You need the infrastructure, the ecosystem somehow to enable this. And then, of course, also you need the capital, the money to kind of give the food. And I think this is something to consider, that if we want to see hardware startups, we need to create this enabling environment. So all of this was there in Finland. And then instead of moving on with my postdoc career, I decided to stay in Finland and join a group of founders. So also I'm not the only one, and it wasn't my initial idea. So there were actually already 3 people who had this plan. Mikko, the professor I was working for, and then Kuan, our CTO, who was back then in Microsoft Sydney, about willing to relocate back to Europe to do this, and then Juha, our chief operating officer. So they were already all on board. And since Mikko, the professor, wanted to keep his university group up and running, he was looking for someone to lead the company as CEO. And then he asked me to do this. And then I thought, okay, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So why not start a company without even knowing what it means? I mean, I was a scientist. I knew how to write research grants and publications, but I didn't know how to talk to investors and do all of this. So this is basically things we had to learn on the fly back then.
Electrolyzers equipment is the equipment that you need to produce hydrogen. So at the core, we provide the tools to produce green hydrogen. We provide the tools to our customers. We don't produce hydrogen ourselves. Yeah, so that's quite important. Every now and then, people confuse us as a producer of green hydrogen. That is not the case. Now, why are we better now than McPhee, for example? I suppose the judgment is still out there, yeah, because we are essentially talking about a market that is literally just taking off. We are at the infancy of the green hydrogen economy, and I think what we are seeing right now is really quite a tectonic shift with respect to our whole energy economy as a whole, yeah. And for a company like Sunfire, as I believe also for other market participants, it's really quite a significant change in the sense that whereas previously the majority of our resources and the majority of our attention went into developing the technology and really building up a portfolio, we are now shifting into really scaling up to serving this market, yeah. And so now also resources go into production upscaling. They go into, of course, continuously into R&D, into making the equipment better, and to making the equipment more affordable as well. But really now being able to serve a market where, you know, institutions like the EU have put out quite ambitious targets out there, 40 gigawatts or more, to be addressed by the end of this decade.
So we help patients with obesity and type 2 diabetes, which is a massive epidemic across Europe. So the direct healthcare costs of it is about 200 billion. Often that's up to 10% of the costs of healthcare in those markets. And it affects about 60 million people in Europe, and has, you know, serious health consequences for them in terms of reduced life expectancy and quality of life. And with Aviva, we found a way to take a traditional method in healthcare that was delivered face-to-face, so behavior change therapy delivered by therapists, dietitians, and scale that up and make it much more accessible with technology. And, you know, in that context of rising healthcare costs to, you know, what it always says every year, unsustainable levels, it's really important that we can help bend that cost curve and help those patients live healthier, happier, longer lives, and also reduce the healthcare costs for that. I think we're in the initial stages of showing, you know, really promising results and scaling up and managing to penetrate markets and access patients.